If you only have a 401k, you're not getting the most for retirement.
Wait, what?
Add a Robinhood IRA on top, then they'll boost it by 3%.
You can do that?
And if you transfer in any retirement account, you get 3% on top of that.
Is there a limit to the match?
No limit. Robinhood Gold gets you the biggest contribution match of any IRA on the market. Sign up for Robinhood Gold at Robinhood.com/boost by April 30th. Subscription fees apply.
Investing involves risk. 3% match requires gold for 1 year from first match. Must keep IRA for 5 years. Match on transfers subject to additional terms and conditions. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC.
Welcome to the Dragon's Lair.
Hello and welcome to the Dragon's Lair podcast. I hope you're all well. I'm Jamie and I'm joined as always by my co-host Gavin Thomas. How are we, Gav?
I'm very well, Jamie. Kind of a winning weekend for us.
A winning weekend. It's nice to say that, isn't it? Especially when we talk about the Dragons. It's always nice. And winning, unbeaten in pre-season.
Yeah.
Unlike the other Welsh teams.
Unbeaten this season so far. That's the way we have to look at it.
Absolutely. Yeah, too right. How's your week been, Gav?
Well, I've watched a lot of rugby. Avoided playing any rugby or training, fortunately.
I understand you went to see Exorcist, the new Exorcist film. Is that right?
I did go and see the new Exorcist.
So go on then, your verdict, because I've read some really brutal reviews about it, and I want to know from you as a horror expert.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. Okay. Is it better than Exorcist 2 though?
Oh, everything's better than Exorcist 2.
That's right.
But
I had to watch that.
It's not as good as Exorcist 3.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, that is an underrated film now, isn't it?
No, I like Exorcist 3, but yeah. Anyway, this is straying into the territory of my other pod now.
I know, yes. Enough horror movie chat now. Let's talk rugby. Let's talk wheelchair rugby. So we have some special guests with us tonight. We have the Dragons wheelchair team. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, guys.
Oh, fantastic, mate. Love to be here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for joining us. So do you just want to introduce yourselves? Because I know there's quite a few of you there, isn't there?
Yeah, we're all keen because we're all fantastic Dragons people. Yeah, my name's Lyndon Price. I'm an assistant coach here. And I have been since we started, really. So that's me.
Yeah.
I'm Karen Burgess, and I'm the Dragons RFC Inclusion Officer for the region.
Excellent.
And I'm Ian Coombs. I'm head coach of the provision at the moment. Really enjoy it.
Hi, I'm Tom Ebo. Hi, I'm Tom Ebo.
Good stuff.
I'm Craig Cotton, also one of the players here with the Dragons.
Excellent.
I'm Mike Weedle. I'm team manager at the moment.
There we are. Good stuff. Okay, thanks again, guys, for joining us. So let's kick this off then. So could you explain your path into wheelchair rugby? How did you guys get into the world of wheelchair rugby? How did it come about?
Well, in this provision, the Dragons, there was a come and try it message put out on Facebook and social media. I was involved in wheelchair rugby before. I was in the Invictus Invictus squad in 2014, and I loved the game. So I went down, tried it out, and I've been here ever since. I started off as a player, but then I realised I'm just too old, too slow, and can't be bothered to train too much. So I became a coach. So,
I feel that very deeply, and I totally agree with you there.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. So we've moved on a little. We started off with a couple of players. We had borrowed chairs from GBWR, and we just trained every week and started to really enjoy the sport. As same as everything new, our first game was a disaster. We went to Bristol Bears, and they taught us a new one. But we've not had a new one torn since, shall we say. And we're moving on ahead now. We've come through COVID. COVID was really cool for us, to be honest, even though we couldn't meet. We met via Zoom, and we had Zoom training sessions where we did fitness work and we did weight training together on Zoom, and we actually met outside in outside basketball courts and stuff, and we met there and just pushed around and threw a ball about. So we didn't break any rules because we weren't meeting inside. So it was all cool. We come to the point now today where we've won 3 sets of competitions this year. I'll let Ian or somebody tell you about them because it was their sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? It was their success. Because I was ill at the time, but we're all Dragons and we all participated, you know. Here we are now, working towards. We just started a new 4s thing, and by the way, we beat the Ospreys again.
Excellent.
So it's fantastic. Yeah, that's me. That's how I'm in it. Just love it and love working with the people. Cheers, Karen.
And I'll pass you on to Ian because I think it's important that he carries on the story from you, if that's okay.
Of course.
No worries.
Hi guys. So I'm gonna say that Lyndon did himself a disservice there. It's very much. I think the best thing about the whole club really is that everybody pitches in. Everybody works so hard together, and really the success we've had this season is down to everybody's hard work. You know, we couldn't do what we do as a coaching team if it wasn't for the welfare officers and the committee members. And I think, you know, let's be blunt about it. Wheelchair rugby isn't glamorous. It costs a lot of money. There's a lot of travelling involved. And if we didn't have such a dedicated group, and that's players, support members, and families, the whole operation works together. And I think that really underpins our success. And long may it continue.
Association with
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, kind of clearly, you're the Dragons team. So, where do you fit within the wider Dragons setup? You know, Karen has responsibility, I suppose, in terms of the inclusion agenda for the club. But where do you fit into the Dragons family?
I think Karen's probably the number one person to kind of explain all that. So I won't steal her thunder by any means.
Yeah, so I think we've come to a point now, like where the team started and where they are now, they're very much, as far as I see it and as far as the Dragons see it, these guys are at the forefront of the Dragons as in inclusion and community. They're so important to us, and we're proud that they wear our badge, and they're proud to wear our badge. We are one family. We are one unit. It's no, as far as we're concerned, there's no separation. You know, they're just as important as the Dragons. You know, the Dragons main team. You know, they like say they've come away with so much silverware this year, but it's not just about that. It's about the family. We are a Dragons family, and it is true. We use hashtag Dragons family, but this is real. This is what the guys believe. And they're so passionate about the badge, so passionate to play for the region, and we are so proud to have them a part of us. You know, we want to sing and shout about how amazing they are. So,
right, absolutely, yeah. Good stuff. Okay, so you guys have won some silverware recently, haven't you? So, am I right in saying that you won the Wheelchair Rugby Fives tournament, and you were recently crowned Welsh Open champions?
Yes,
that's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
You're doing all right today.
Do you want me to pass you on to one of our young members to talk to you about our success?
Yeah, I'd be interested talking to the players as well about their
their I'll
experience.
pass you on to the players. Here we go. Tom, go on, Tom.
Hi.
Hello, Tom. Tell us about the success then. Tell us about trophies.
I won the Fives League with the Dragons, and it was amazing. It was tough at the beginning, but we kept persevering and we got there in the end.
Yeah. How long have you played for Dragons, Tom?
3 years.
3 years. Yeah. And so what trophies have you won? You've won the Fives. What else have you won in the 3 years you've been there?
We won the Welsh Open at the Judgment Day with the Euros 2023 against Ospreys, and we beat them again. yeah. I think that's what we've won since I've been there.
And for you, Tom, as a player, clearly playing for Dragons, that's an honour. Any greater ambitions? Should we expect to see you in a Welsh shirt and a Great Britain shirt?
Yes. Yes. I'm long-term hoping to be competing in the Paralympics, maybe. And I'm going to make a documentary about wheelchair rugby for my college work.
Excellent.
That's impressive.
That's probably a really good.
Hi guys, I
really good, isn't it?
I think we're
so
talking about
I was just going to ask, what do you guys enjoy most about wheelchair rugby? What is it about there for you guys you really get out of it? Would you say?
Well, I think it's like I think it's been mentioned a lot, like the family kind of aspect of it. Everyone come together. You know, everyone has their highs and lows, but it's an approachable club, and it's a way I think people can come together if you've got any issues or problems that you can come together and sort that, and then you can kind of deal with it within the rugby kind of aspect then and leave it on the court.
So how does the coaching work? I'm assuming it's the same as any other sport, really. You know, you're learning drills, you're doing the physical stuff. But playing for Dragons, are you being kind of beasted? Is the training just at that level above, do you think?
100%. You know, you put what you get out of it in terms of the training from the coaches, and it's identified by the coaches when, like, you know, the effort everyone puts in. And yeah, we do get beasted on a weekly, but you know, it's a positive because you know you worked hard. You can come away from them training sessions knowing you put 100% in.
And how long have you been playing for the Dragons?
So for me, it's been probably about 8 to 9 months.
Okay.
So my kind of journey has come through the Invictus this year.
Okay.
Obviously, come out with silver medal against the Yanks this year, and then but I got through it from watching it in The Hague the year before, and then just followed that passion through then and found the Dragons through it.
So you competed in the Invictus Games for Great Britain this year? Is it last year?
This year.
This year.
Yeah.
That's very impressive.
It is. Very, very impressive. Fair play. So if there's anyone listening to this podcast now, they've got a disability, but they do want to get into wheelchair rugby, what do they need to do? How would they go about doing that?
So I think first things first, obviously the point of contact would either be ourselves on social media or through Karen at the Dragons. I think probably the great news now is we've developed to a point where we've got 3 provisions. So we've got, just to clarify, so we've got the Fives League, which gives that's open to players with any physical disability.
Okay.
You've then got the Fours format, which is exactly the same rules. The only difference is in the name there's one less player. But that's for players who meet the Paralympic pathway classification. So predominantly it's for individuals with a higher level of impairment. But I think another thing that we're very, very proud of, and hopefully will leave the club in a really good place come a couple of years, is our youth setup. So hopefully now we've got obviously we've got a youth team, got a Fours team and a Fives team. So we'd like to think we've got options for anybody out there who wants to try. I'd also like to add there as well, we're always welcoming volunteers, support staff. With very, very quickly to mention, we couldn't do what we do without our support staff. They are the backbone of our club. You've got mechanics, first aiders, and that kind of goes around what I was saying at the start is you can't have a successful club if you don't have the successful parts underneath.
That's right.
If anybody wants to get involved, and gonna chuck it in there. The most successful wheelchair rugby club in Wales this season.
Excellent.
Yeah, so be great to welcome you. And we train on a Thursday evening in Pontypool.
And just to clarify, you beat the Ospreys.
Yeah, just to clarify that point, in case our listeners weren't sure.
Yeah. Can I pass you over to Mike, who just wants to say something?
Of course.
Where are we coming from? Oh yeah. All I want to say really is, like, a lot of these players, I know there's a few years. We are the biggest in Wales, and it's grown since the Euros. It's gone massive with our youth fours. Our youngest player is 5. Our oldest is 68. Wow. So that's the age range. And if, like Giant said, if anybody wants to join, then come along. And just, I hope this works and it can get some publicity out there for us, and we're always looking for help in any way, shape or form.
Brilliant. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So where can people find you then on the social media?
Social media, Dragons Wheelchair Rugby on Facebook. Twitter, the same, Dragons Wheelchair Rugby. A lot of our stuff is shared by the Dragons RFC. The community, the All-Stars, all the inclusions, we're all together, I mean, I go with the walk-in rugby, I go with the mixed ability team, sporting memories. I mean, I'm doing 5 days a week at the moment with Dragons, and that's just volunteering with them, and doing different things, but and we get on with it, and next week now we'll all be down at the game with our trophies from this year. And I've invited a couple of people from the Ospreys. I don't think they'll come though, but I will send them the pictures.
I don't mind having it. It's because you beat them by any chance.
I will send them the pictures. I gotta be honest, if you'd have seen their faces on Saturday, oh my god. Oh yeah, really. But it was our first trip out as fours, and it was really exciting. I do get over excited on the side of a pitch or the side of a court, and it was really good, And we beat the Ospreys, didn't we? Yeah.
Beat the Ospreys, there we are.
And we all go away together, and and then after the game, especially after the league, we won the league. We all went to the to a restaurant and we had a meal, and all in our sort of same gear. A couple of pints, stayed in a hotel overnight then, and come back the next day. But it's absolutely, we really look after each other. And when you think of Thomas, he's been here 3 years. And when he first came to us, he looked at us like we had 3 heads, and now he's so much part of the team. It's unbelievable. And when you think about it, we've had the pandemic and now we couldn't train for 2 years, apart from when we could get out into the open and when he lifted the bans up, the lockdowns. So it's been an eventful, since COVID or coming back from COVID, it's been pretty good for us, and on a scale that I don't think we ever imagined as big as this, And not all clubs, it's difficult to get people in, but we train at the right time, see, after work, and that's what's good about it. 5:30 to 8:30 on a Thursday night.
Brilliant.
So, I'll leave the last words to you guys then. So, what's it like to be the best team in Wales? Because we don't often get to say that as Dragons fans.
To be honest, it's absolutely brilliant. But you come to training, you've got so many people wanting to work. We really beast them, sweaty and breathless. But it's absolutely fantastic to be the best people in Wales. Fantastic, mate.
You had to be in the Principality Stadium on that 7th of May.
Yeah. Good day out, was there?
Oh, fabulous. Best day ever.
And we beat the Ospreys.
Beat the Ospreys? Never. You should have said. Guys, thank you very much. It's been a great chat. Thank you for joining us today. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having us as well.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, we're gonna do a 1, 2, 3 Dragons, guys. Come on,
of course.
Come on, guys.
Go on, then.
I know that.
Right.
You can do it in Welsh.
Come on, do it now. 1, 2, 3.
Excellent stuff. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Let's go get sweaty.
Bye.
Thank you.
No worries. Bye now.
So, well, that was a first for me on a podcast, having so many people. But I think really positive message there, wasn't it, Jamie? From the guys at Dragons Wheelchair Rugby, and kind of really growing the game in a really community minded and successful as well. Which let's not take that away.
Absolutely, that was a really good chat. I mean, it was organised chaos to begin with, wasn't it? But
yes.
It's very enjoyable, and you can tell how much they enjoy it. There's a togetherness there. There's a bond there. They love, playing rugby with each other. They just love meeting up, and you can tell it's a community. And it's just fantastic.
But there's a sense of ambition there as well. When we speak in Thomas, and he was saying, his ambition is to represent Wales, is to represent Great Britain, and it's high level elite sport for those guys, and I think it's something that has to be celebrated. And as we've said on the pod, but in all the episodes we've done so far as well, I think it's very important to understand that being a Dragons fan is more than just supporting Di and the guys, on the weekends in the URC. There's a wealth of clubs, and over time, I'm hoping we'll get to speak to the other community clubs that the Dragons offer.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a real big community at the Dragons, isn't there? The inclusion team, the Karen heads up is just fantastic. And it's nice to talk about a successful Dragons team, isn't it? A Dragons team that is winning trophies. It's fantastic. It really is.
Absolutely. With our badge on, it's not just a case of, and you do get a sense that it's really involved, because sometimes you do see the community element of clubs. It's there, but it's not massively, it's there because it has to be. But you don't get that sense with Dragons. It's there because they want to build that community, that family.
Absolutely. And they beat the Ospreys, in case you wasn't aware.
Yes.
The Dragons real team, they beat the Ospreys.
And our friends on the Erie, I apologise for the amount of mentions of that.
Good stuff. It was great to have him on. It was a real treat and a pleasure. Right then, let's talk about more success, shall we? The Dragons' unbeaten pre-season. So, Dragons wrapped up their pre-season with a 31-24 victory over the Scarlets at Parker Scarlets last Friday night. We had 2 tries from Steph Hughes, one from Jared Rosser, Jordan Williams, and Luke Yendall, as the men of Gwent backed up the win over the Ospreys with a victory on the road, meaning the Dragons are the only Welsh region to be undefeated in pre-season, and we haven't lost since April. Facts. Those are the facts. We haven't lost.
Oh, they are, absolutely. But I think realistically as well, as much as we make it a little bit of a joke, also it's showing something positive, isn't it? Because that wasn't a bad Scarlets team. That wasn't a bad Scarlets team. They were internationals on that field for Scarlets.
Oh yeah, you had John Fox, you had Tame Plumtree, you had Johnny McNichol. This was a pretty strong Scarlets team. It was much stronger than the team they put against Cardiff the week before. Now, I only saw 3-minute highlight video of this, and I've read the match reports. I know you've seen the highlights as well.
Yeah.
I know it's not a lot to go on, but from what you saw and what you've read about the game, what did you take out of it?
So I think the 2 early tries that we shipped, I think the defence there, kind of was basic stuff. Plumtree's run through a gap, we shouldn't be leaving those gaps. But then the match report suggests that defensively we were actually much better organised than that, and there were 2 slight aberrations. I think from the clips from the match report, Steph is really looking for work. He is looking for that ball every given opportunity, and that's paying dividends at the moment. I think the scrum, I'm looking for some wood to touch. The scrum, that's UPVC, but it'll do. I think the scrum is looking better than I had expected. I'm not going to say anything better than that, but I'm going to say better than I expected.
Yeah, same. Yeah, based on the highlights that I saw, and I've read the match reports in the Argus. So the Dragons' defence was very good by all accounts. I do agree with you. I think those 2 tries, Tame Plumtree, and in particular, Kieran Hardy's one was very soft. When he took that quick tap and he just went up through the middle and scored, I thought, oh, I don't like the look of that. We don't want to be doing
that was just lack of awareness.
Like it's like we switched off a little bit, and I think we need to be a bit more on the ball, I think, especially in the URC. So yeah, that was a little bit disappointing, those 2 tries. But our defence was actually pretty good by all accounts. So Dragons were pinned inside their own half on a number of occasions, but they've managed to hold out. Our scrum and driving ball looked solid. Yes, they did. I know it's hard to believe about the Dragons, but the scrum and driving ball did look solid.
The driving ball, particularly, when was the last time we used that as an attacking option with a level of confidence in it?
Absolutely. We did have 2 players sent to the sin bin in the first half. We had Ben Carter and Rodrigo Martinez. So I think discipline is maybe something we need to work on, because although I like, we talked about Rodrigo Martinez on the last pod, he is prone to giving some penalties away, I've noticed in pre-season. So I think Di Flan needs to have a little word with him there and just watch his discipline, because he looks great in the scrum, but I think we don't want to be giving away penalties, cheap penalties like that, do we?
I spoke to a Wasps supporting friend of mine, and he only played about 9 games, but apparently he is prone to straying offside or giving the odd penalty away.
I mean, that's not what we want to hear, but that's nipped in the bud pretty soon, isn't it? Just going back to the defence. So the backs coach, Matt O'Brien, he said this after the game. He said, the Scarlets had a fair bit of territory in the second half in our 22, but the defensive effort was unbelievable. It's been outstanding all pre-season, and we have done a lot of work on it. So that's quite encouraging, especially when you consider now we don't have a specialist defensive coach. Because Simon Cross, who was our defence coach, now he's gone to America to coach in the Major League Rugby. So what's happening now is we've got Sam Hobbs from the Dragons Academy. He's helping out with the defence alongside Di Flanagan. I just wonder, is that a concern for you that we don't have a specialist defensive coach, or do you think that's just one of those things that can be easily worked around?
I think in the short term, it's fine. In the long term, no, it's not. If you look at any club, any elite club, they have a defence coach, a specialist. And if you look at some of the other clubs in the URC, not necessarily the Welsh ones, they have a plethora of coaches. They have a defence coach, a set piece coach.
Yeah.
And I think it just leaves us a bit lightweight. And it also places a bit too much kind of pressure on Di and the team. It's better if you have somebody who's going to worry about the defence. So then the other people can focus on attack, can focus on transitions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go on, Jamie.
No, I was just about to say, I don't know if I told you this, but the Dragons had an open day. I think it was a month or 2 ago now. It was like an open training session at Bonnie Parade. I took Jen, my wife, and my daughter. It absolutely hammered down with rain. It was a really grim day. But I got chatting to Di Flan just for a few minutes. And I asked him at the time about a defence coach because, the news had got about Simon Cross, which was still quite fresh about him leaving to America. And I did suggest to him, this was before it was all confirmed, but about Gethin Jenkins, could he snap up Gethin Jenkins or Mark Jones? And they hadn't been signed up by the Cardiff or Ospreys yet. So they were free agents at the time. And Di Flanker said, I love to get him. He said, but it's money, it's finances. And he said, but at the moment, we got Sam Hobbs leading the defence, and he told me he's really stepped up. So he seemed quite happy with Sam Hobbs in charge of the defence. But I would just like a specialist defence coach there, that's my only concern. I don't want someone just, sharing duties with the academy, because that's what's happening with the backs as well. Because you got Matt O'Brien, who's coaching the backs. Now, don't forget, he's coaching the academy at the Dragons. He's also playing for Newport RFC as well. We seem to have a few coaches sort of sharing around a bit, and I'd rather just have specialist coaches in their positions.
Yeah, whether that's a money-saving thing, who knows?
It has to be.
But, if we are... I would imagine that Di is serious about wanting to make this the best Dragons team he can. It's not being ridiculous. He's not going to claim he's going to win the URC, but he wants to make this as good a team as he can. The best way to do that will be to have a coaching team that he wants, that supports him in doing what he wants. And I've got no doubt that the guys from the academy are doing a good job, and they certainly appear to be. But if that's the case, then bring them up and develop new academy staff. Or if that's not going to be the case, then bring in other guys who can work alongside Di.
Yeah, absolutely. Just going back to that Scarlets game, though, have you listened to the Scarlets Fever podcast? Our colleagues at RAP?
I
Did you listen to
haven't.
that?
I haven't listened to it. I must admit, but I can imagine what it's saying.
Well, they didn't say anything. That's the problem. They refused to talk about that game. The absolute cowards that they are. I listened this morning. They refused to mention our win over them. They would not acknowledge it at all, Gav. Now, had they won, I'm sure they'd be very keen to talk about it, wouldn't they? And listening to their pod last week, they were very confident of a Scarlets win over the Dragons. They were very, very confident. But yeah, I just want to call them out for being cowards, also, that they did not talk about this game.
Well, I saw on Twitter, they when asked for predictions by the guys from the Erie podcast, they predicted that Scarlets would win the Welsh Shield and finish 6th in the URC.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been optimistic, isn't it? I can't see any Welsh side getting into the top 8, as I've said. But
no. I think the Welsh teams will fill between 9 and 16. Hopefully, we are 16th.
Yeah, and that's not us being negative. That's just giving an honest opinion about where Welsh rugby is and the challenges that are ahead. With the reduced budgets and what have you, isn't it?
And I think it's easy to look at the success at Welsh international level over the last 15 years and forget that almost runs against the grain of what it's looked like at domestic level in Wales. Yeah, we have been better than the sum of our parts at international level, but worse than the sum of our parts at domestic level.
Yeah, I agree. It's just nice to be headed into the new season now, though, isn't it? On a bit of a winning streak. Okay, I know it's only pre-season, it's only a couple of games, but if you look at the Scarlets, they've lost their 2 games. They got to go to South Africa now. So it doesn't get any easier. Whereas us now, we're going into Edinburgh next week with a spring in our step, aren't we? So it does help, doesn't it, to have that bit of confidence in pre-season.
Winning is a habit. To use a terrible cliche, but it is it's an absolute habit. And you learn better habits by doing the same things over and over again. And we've won because we've defended well. We've taken opportunities when we've had them. And we just got to take those habits in. Playing Edinburgh is going to be considerably tougher than playing a mix and match Ospreys team or whatever Scarlets put out. But I think we've just got to go into something where we've beaten teams with international players. And, let's see what this happens.
Absolutely. On our day, I've always said, if we get everyone fit and we play well, I think we can give, a good game against anyone in the league. I'm not saying we'll beat anyone. We will give them a good game. I've always said that.
We beat Munster last season, and Munster went on to be champions.
Exactly.
And you can say, that was a poor Munster performance. It's still a team that are champions of the URC that we beat.
That was a fully loaded Munster team. So they played Cardiff the week. They played Cardiff the week before. It wasn't full strength because if you remember, they had players on the Emerging Island tour.
Yes.
And then when they played us, then they started bringing back bloody O'Malley and Zebo and all that lot there. And they went fully loaded against us and they came a cropper. Although, to be fair, this season did okay after that.
To be fair. Well, I think that was the low point, and then they might have risen from there. But, it's... and we went the other way. I think our paths crossed, then diverged.
Yeah, absolutely. So, speaking of the Edinburgh game, so I don't know if you've seen this, Dave Flanagan has issued a squad update today. He's saying that basically everyone is in contention for the URC opening against Edinburgh, except for George Young. He suffered a concussion in his left knee, so he's ruled out. And of course, we know about Lewis Jones. He suffered a fractured cheekbone against the Ospreys. So those 2 players will not be in contention, but pretty much everyone else will. And he did talk about Leon Brown in the article I read today. He's trained the house down, apparently, which is good because we talked about it on the last pod. It's a big year for Leon now, Gav, isn't it? He really needs to run the games and hopefully have a bit of luck with injuries because I feel this is a really big season for him.
Yeah, he's a player that Gatland and Pivac both saw a lot in.
Yeah.
And, he's a physical specimen. He's got great levels of fitness. He has to stay fit, though. Like, he has to avoid injury. When he's on the field, he shows great levels of fitness, but he has to stay fit. And, as I've said on the pod before, I want to see that scrummaging improve. I really do need to see that improvement for me. Because if he can do that, if you've got a guy of his physicality and his ability who can then also hold down his end of the scrum, well, absolute sky is the limit.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's a big unit as well. He's really good in the loosest ball carrying. He's really destructive.
Good at
I
the
remember that
breakdown.
game. Yes, I remember that game against the Lions when it had to be played up in Estramonic. I remember he'd been out for ages and he came off the bench. Oh, he was so good. It was just a reminder of how good he could be. He scrummaged well. He was a ball carrying was terrific, and he was putting people on their ass. And it was just, for me, that was a reminder of how good he can be. And I'm just desperate for him. I'm desperate for people like Ollie Griffiths to have an injury-free season.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got a lot of players who just need to stay fit, don't we? Like Leon Brown needs to stay fit.
Yeah.
Ollie Griffiths needs to stay fit. Ashley Hewitt needs to stay fit. Yeah, we have got a core of players who are, dare I say, injury prone. We just need them to be injury-free and to have a bit of luck this season. Because I think if they can, then we'll be okay.
I think for the first time in a while, I'm not saying, this is a great team. Yeah, I'm a Dragons fan. I operate in moderation.
Rein yourself in.
I operate in realms of moderation. But that's a good solid pack when everyone's there, when all the internationals are back. That's a really strong pack with options in most positions. And that's that's quite an exciting backline. My well-publicised and public love of Jonah Holmes notwithstanding, this is a good, a quite exciting backline. We've got this real pace there, particularly if Ashton comes back fit and with Rio and everyone. And there's a bit of steel in the middle, and you've got creativity coming through now. What I've seen of Will Reid, and I must admit, is quite limited. He is looking quite the player.
Absolutely, we got some exciting young talent. Di Richards is someone I really like, the young Newport fullback and wing, and we got players like Harry Ackerman, and Ivan Owen, Wales under-20s captain Ryan Woodman. We've got some really talented young players. So I am actually really looking forward to the new season, even though I know it's going to be challenging, it's going to be difficult. Maybe it is because we are now unbeaten in pre-season, but I am actually really. I haven't felt this way for a long time. I think with the private ownership news as well, there is a feel-good factor at the moment, isn't there? So I'm generally looking forward to the new season. But we got to win. We got to beat Edinburgh, haven't we? That's such a massive game now going into the new season.
But it's winnable.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Edinburgh are a good side, but they'll be missing a big chunk of players. They're probably harder hit than we are. Admittedly, Scotland are coming home, but those guys won't be heading back to Edinburgh quite yet.
No, I was wondering what this stand-down period is for the Scottish players.
It must be.
You don't think they'll be chucked straight into that game then, though? You think they'll be vested? I hope they are.
I can't see how they would be. I'm assuming they've now returned to Scotland, but there'll be a debrief for the Scotland camp, I imagine.
Yeah.
And then, there might be some of them back, but they're not going to be anywhere near that sharpness, are they? Admittedly, they've been in the camp and everything else, but playing for Scotland is different to playing for Edinburgh. They'll run different defensive strategies. They'll run different lines. It'll be a bit of an adjustment for them.
Yeah. Let's hope they aren't available, those internationals. That's the last thing we want to say is suddenly all these internationals pouring in. Let's hope not. That's next Saturday, Dragons and Edinburgh. Tickets are on sale for that one, so if you haven't got your tickets, snap them up and let's get a good crowd on Ronnie Parade and cheer on the boys, because the more people they are at Parade, the better the atmosphere, and it really does help the team. So, we look forward to that one next week. Right then, let's talk Rugby World Cup. In particular, Wales. So Wales were crowned Pool C winners, and they maintained their unbeaten march to the quarterfinals after beating Georgia 43-19. Louis Rees-Zammit scored a hat-trick, while there also tries for Thomas Francis, Liam Williams, and George North. Like I said, the scoreline was 43-19. It didn't feel like that. to
No.
me. You know, when you read the scoreline, you think, oh, that sounds pretty comprehensive. If you hadn't seen the game, it wasn't quite reflective. I said that game of the scoreline. What was your take on it, Gav?
Well, I think we were exactly what we needed to be for 15 minutes at the start, exactly what we needed to be for 15 minutes at the end. Fine for another 20 minutes, and for half an hour, absolutely hapless.
Yeah, I talked about this on the Wrap Pod. You know, Wales have been winning, and that's great. You know, I think we've done incredibly well in this World Cup. I actually don't think we're getting the credit or the respect that we deserve. We're still, you know, because this nonsense about the lopsided draw, and people are still writing us off, and that's absolutely fine. You know, we'll take that. You know, we love being written off. I think what does concern me Wales's performances is, well, not all of them, not the one against Australia, but certainly against Fiji, against Portugal, and against Georgia again. We seem to have this lapse in the second half. There's a period where we seem to switch off, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't quite know why that is, but they don't want to be doing that now. We're in the knockout stages, you know, especially against the likes of Argentina and, you know, Ireland, New Zealand, if we do get to the semi-final. So we really need to make sure we're staying.
I think the key for me in that is, and I've got no statistics to prove this, but I'm going to state it as fact because, you know, that is how the internet works. You vaguely think something and you state it as fact. But it's always been in the absence of Dan Biggar that we've had those lapses. Admittedly, not against Australia, but I think that was just one of those moments. Biggar goes off against Fiji, gets loose. Biggar's not on the field against Portugal, was loose. Biggar wasn't on the field. I don't think Biggar allows it. He is barking at people constantly. And I've never been a huge fan of Sam Costello, and it's not because he's a Scarlets player. I have no strong feelings one way or other about our Westphalian friends. But I don't think he's the kind of player who inspires confidence in the players around him. I think he had a perfectly good game against Georgia. But with Biggar, he just emanates a thing that you want to play your best because you really don't want an irate Dan Biggar 2 inches from your face calling you an idiot. You know, it's but he also emanates a calmness because Biggar doesn't panic. You know, apart from when he shouted at Rio in the Six Nations, but you know, he doesn't panic. He just emanates calmness. And against Argentina, I think we've picked a pack to deal with them. We've gone very, very mobile. And that's partially because Talupe is not about as well.
Yeah,
but I'm not worried. I can't say I'm believing this, but I was saying this, but I'm not that worried about Argentina. Yes, they can beat us, but we can beat them. We can definitely beat them.
Yeah,
and he's picked the best team. The bench, I'm not sure. You know, if Dylan Lewis is the answer, what is the question? But and those forwards, you know, that front row selection, yeah, I get Dewi Lake, that's fine. But, you know, there are Domikowski and Dylan Lewis are not our best two alternative props. You know, Henry Thomas and Nicky Smith are the options there for me.
You've jumped ahead a little bit there because I was going to talk about the Wales Argentina. No, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. I was just going to say you're absolutely right about Dan Biggar. It's no coincidence that when he's not on the field, things turn to shit. I thought Costello did all right, actually. I mean, you know, he is a young flyer. He was chucked into the deep end, wasn't he? Because of the really sad and unfortunate injury of Anscombe, who looked absolutely devastated, by the way. I felt really sorry for Anscombe because Anscombe's a player I rate. And to see him, he was almost inconsolable there, wasn't he, when he had to come off the field? It was really sad. So I thought he did okay. Yes, there were a few shaky moments, but there's a few, like, you know, pointless kicks, wasn't there, at times for Costello? A few decisions I thought, I don't know why you're doing that. But overall, I thought he did okay. But it does worry me after the World Cup, when you consider obviously Biggar's retiring, Gareth Anscombe's going to Japan. We need a 10 to step up, but it seems to be Costello is going to be that guy. I don't really know who else is there. Like, there's Owen Williams. I don't know. I mean, people talk about Callum Sheedy. I mean, Bristol named their team today. He's not even in it, you know? So I just don't know. I'm a bit concerned about the 10 position going forward.
I think in the short term, it's a bit of a concern. Anscombe can still be selected, I believe, despite moving to Japan. but because he's beyond the caps barrier, isn't he? But yeah, where are the other options? Yeah, Callum Sheedy, I'm not massively convinced by. I know Josh on the Blood and Mud pod is a big fan of Owen Williams, but I haven't seen what he sees. Maybe I'm wrong there. But then where are the other options?
Yeah, I mean, Josh likes him because he's an Osprey, don't he? That's
well, I'm not suggesting Josh is quite one-eyed towards Ospreys, but maybe. But but I was having this conversation with a friend of mine this week as well. I think, but there are options, kind of coming through, and I'm getting ahead of myself now. And when I declared Harry Keddy was going to be the next captain of Wales, that didn't pan out the way I wanted. But Will Reid, longer term, who knows? There's stuff. There are players coming through who could be, but right now we've got the issue.
Yeah, just to say about Gareth Anscombe, so he won't be available for the Six Nations because of the way the Japanese season is structured. I've just looked it up now because I thought, hang on, I'm sure he's not available. Same with Liam Williams, he's not going to be available because I think there's a clash, and they're not going to be available. So after that, he will be available. But essentially, he's unlikely to be available for the 2024 Six Nations. But he has no plans to retire from international rugby. So
because the full-back option then is also your concern longer term, isn't it? Because if Liam's in Japan and Lee Halfpenny is roughly the same age as God, where's the full-back option then?
Kai Evans. It's got to be Kai Evans, hasn't it? My mate Kai Evans. I really like him. I do. I like Kai Evans.
Yeah, no, and he is a good player. I've kind of I think I'm not quite as firmly in the camp as you as the fan club, but I do rate him as a player.
Yeah. What did you make of Tane Basham's yellow card? That kerfuffle with him and the Nashville with Georgia.
He was silly. He was a yellow card, but
you think it was definitely a yellow too? Because a lot of people said that they shouldn't have had yellow. It was just some handbags and get on with it, and they just should have had warnings rather than yellows. But that's
the modern game now. Kind of. You can get away with it if you play in the Division 5 of the Sussex leagues like I do. But when you're an international player, you've got to be able to control yourself. But then, saying that, Pierre Schumann suplexed an Irish player over an advertising hoarding, and the ref didn't seem to think there was an issue. So who am I to comment?
Do you know, I found it really frustrating because there's two sides to this. So on the one hand, it actually helped Wales having Nia Nashville off because he was causing us a lot of problems. So when he went off and Tay went off, it actually helped us a little bit. But on the other hand, I did feel for Tane because, again, I said this on the Rap Pod this week, I feel Tane has been underused in this World Cup. I felt he should have had more minutes. Now, of course, I'm not saying he should have started every game. I'm not that bloody parochial. But I do think he should have had far more game time than what he has. So we'll come into the Wales team in a minute, but he's not in the team at all. He's not even on the bench. And I just think that's a shame, that we don't get to see enough of him, really.
Do you think that's kind of I briefly had a conversation with Robbie from the Squidge podcast about this earlier in the day, and I think without claiming his views of my own, so I'll be honest, but he made a point. When I said, I'd have liked to have seen Tane on the bench, he said, but if you had Tane there, you wouldn't really have anybody who's going to be hitting breakdowns forcefully. What you've got is lots of scavengers, but not many kind of wrecking balls. And having Chris Schunzer on that bench gives you a physicality that perhaps isn't there amongst Wainwright and Jack Morgan and Tommy Raffel.
Yeah, I think Schunzer's been selected ahead of Basham because he's a line-out option as well. I think that's what it is. I just wonder if a yellow card went against him as well. Did Gatland look at that and think, I can't be having that in the court? I don't know. I'm just speculating, but I don't know. Maybe it went against him, perhaps.
It wasn't an ill-disciplined thing, though, was it? It was just one of those things. And there was a weekend of handbags.
Oh,
it was in the Scotland Island game. I'm trying to think, in the Portugal-Fiji game as well.
Yeah, you're right. I was going to get your take on the rest of the weekend's action. Was there anything from last weekend that stood out for you? I mean, obviously, brilliant win for Portugal, Scotland going home. What Wales up the side now? Was there anything else you took out to the World Cup?
I'm going to speak a blasphemy now, and I will be struck down by the rugby hipster gods. Right? That Portugal game, super exciting, right? Brilliant.
Right.
So pleased for Portugal. A team with half a brain would have won that game quite easily. Do not play what they want you to play. Fiji has, in a kind of ironic twist, Fiji did what we did against Fiji in 2007 and thought, oh, they're going to play like that. We'll play like that too. And it only ends one way. All you had to do was just kill it dead. Slow the game right down. Keep the ball off the park. Play through the set piece. And Bernard Jackman appeared on the Beyond 80 show for World Rugby, hosted by Sam Larner. And we'll get Sam on the pod later in the season. And Bernard Jackman said exactly that. Bernard Jackman was saying a team with a sense of their own kind of abilities would have just killed that game stone cold dead. And I think from the point of view of the game was super exciting and I loved it. But the game of somebody, from the point of view of somebody who coaches rugby, who's involved, I was so frustrated with Fiji.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I know exactly what I mean because first of all, I loved watching Portugal. I think they're really entertaining. They're absolutely fierce. They're not afraid to give it a crack. And I think they've been great to watch. I mean, Nicholas Martins has been superb. He has been one of the players of the tournament. And it's a crying shame if a big European club now don't snap him up. I could see him playing in the top 14 English Premier, even URC. He is a really, really talented player.
And Marquez, the scrum half as well, really scrappy. He's a bit older, so I can't see him moving about a great deal, but, always looking for the gap. But a bit naive as well, just a bit like Thomas for us, but more so.
Yeah, the fullback as well. I don't know his name off the top of my head. He's really, really talented. But I do agree with you. I think you say it was a brilliant game. I think the second half was really exciting, but I thought the first half was bloody awful. It was so scrappy. I lost count of the number of times Fiji sort of knocked on or made errors. I was thinking, this is doing my head in this game. But the second half was absolutely terrific. And I am pleased for Portugal. I mean, the scenes you saw at the airport going around on social media. And we need that, don't we? We need tier 2 teams that, we want to grow the game. And, rugby is made front pages in the papers in Portugal. That's brilliant because it's normally football, isn't it? So I think it's terrific. But, without doing them too much disservice, I do agree with you. I don't think Fiji were very good, but I hope they don't play like that against England. I'm sure they won't. You guarantee they'll raise their game. They have to, don't they?
The other game I wanted to talk about was the England game as well.
Oh, yeah.
That was hapless. For 60 minutes, they were hapless. And I think the try that wasn't given for Samoa, that was borderline. That was a borderline decision.
Yeah.
But the problem is you've got one of those two teams, neither of whom are in great form. Fiji stuttered to a win over Georgia, were beaten by Portugal. England, they scored. As one of my teammates said, we scored 70 points against Chile. And I said, with all due respect, I think you're talking about my club team. I said, think we'd keep Chile within about 15. It's slight exaggeration, but
just a bit, yeah.
Sometimes hyperbole works. But one of those teams is going to be in the semi-final of a World Cup.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I could see Wales and England being in the semi-finals.
So can I. And you could argue that we don't deserve to be there. I would argue differently. I think we've done a professional job and we've beaten what has been in front of us, and that is all you can do.
Yeah, like I said, Wales aren't getting the credit that they deserve. But what I would say, I think Wales are playing better rugby than England, because at least with Wales, you can see what we're trying to do. What we are. We're Warren Ball, whereas England, they're chopping and changing all the time. I don't know what they're trying to do. I don't know what their style is. They just seem, Borthwick seems to be making up as he goes along, doesn't he, with his squad selections.
Like the scrum half, whose name I can't remember, is fallen out of my head.
Alex Mitchell?
Mitchell, that's it.
Yeah.
Sorry, senior moment. I have a group chat for my club team, and our head coach was just becoming steadily and steadily and steadily more infuriated with Mitchell until it was just a list of expletives and Mitchell's name about 45 minutes into the game. And, you know, and I don't see the shape in England's team. But then I don't think it really matters what England or Wales do, because you look at Ireland at the minute and I do not know what's beating them. They do the same thing over and over again with such ruthless efficiency.
But do you think New Zealand are going under the radar in this tournament? You don't at all, do you? You don't think they can spring I don't want to say a shock, because this is the world we live in now, where people are saying it's a shock and upset when the All Blacks beat Ireland. I mean, can you imagine saying that a couple of years ago? But that's where we are now. The rugby landscape has changed so much. But you don't think New Zealand can spring a shock? I'll come on to predictions later, but you don't think?
Well, I think they could spring a shock, but I'm not seeing it from this New Zealand team. And I don't know what they've got that would frighten Ireland. I don't know what does frighten Ireland. You know, their attack is it's like a machine. It's an absolute machine. You know, and I think if France are a Ferrari, Ireland are a Volvo. It's a, you know, and that's not, Ferraris are great and really exciting and everything else. But sometimes you want the Volvo to do a job. If you move,
they're reliable.
If you move in your mate into a new flat, you know, you're not going to do it in your Ferrari. You want your Volvo estate. And that's Ireland. It's just over and over and over and over again until it's unstoppable.
Yeah, it's fair enough. I do get your point. Yeah, it's a good analogy, actually. Scotland, the other headline, they're going home to the surprise of no one. I mean, to be fair, everyone's giving them stick, but they were in a very, very difficult pool. But the problem was they just didn't perform when they had to. You know, they knew they had to beat South Africa. They underperformed. They knew they had to beat Ireland, and they underperformed. And unfortunately for them, it's another pool exit for them.
For 40 minutes, they were in that South Africa game. And if Darcy Graham, when he'd broken, had scored that try, who knows what would have happened. But then the second half, Bomber Squad comes on, scrum collapses, and South Africa just South Africa'd.
Yeah. So, okay, those were the takeaways from the weekend. So this Saturday then, Wales are up against Argentina for a place in the World Cup semi-final. Now, there are just 2 Dragons named in the squad this week. We got Aaron Wainwright starting at 8. If you remember, there's been a big debate about who would start. For me, it was always going to be Aaron. I don't know why there was such a big debate about it. But you know what social media is like, don't know.
Yeah, that back row was always going to be the back row, wasn't it?
Yeah, I saw when you had people on other podcasts saying Chris Chunser at 8. I was like, no, not for this. Absolutely not. No. Real Dye was on the bench. Yeah. Fortunately, there's no place for Tane Basham, as we talked about earlier. No Elliot D, which is upsetting a lot of Dragon supporters on forums today, or Dan Lydiate. It wouldn't have surprised me if Gatland had gone, to Dan Lydiate, given this experience. But I've got to be honest, I think Dan Lydiate would be a really good player when he returns for us, for the Dragons. So he's going to be a great captain. I feel like his best days are past him now at international level. So I don't know if Gatland's going to turn to him. But you've seen the Wales team now. What were your thoughts on it?
Well, sorry, I stole your thunder a bit earlier. No, it's fine. I think it's the strongest team we could have put out there. And then the questions on the bench. I wouldn't have Don Mikowski. I wouldn't have Dylan Lewis. But,
So what would you have had? You've had Nicky Smith and Henry Thomas.
I'd had Smith and Henry Thomas, yeah. I prefer Elliot D to Dewey Lake, but I would have had Lake over Elliot just because I think it's just that balance thing. And then, second rows, you've got, I haven't seen enough from David Jenkins to put him in over Beard. So Beard, Rowlands is first name on the team sheet for me right now. Yeah. So, that's without him. What about you? Kind of what's your take on the bench for the forwards?
I'm the same as you. So I would have preferred Nicky Smith because I think he's a best scrummager. Mm-hmm. I don't know why Dylan Lewis. I'm the same as you again. I've never rated Dylan Lewis. And look, I know he had a really good tour in South Africa. Anytime you speak to somebody about Dylan Lewis, and they like him, they always mention the South Africa tour. Well, yeah, that's fine, but that was like once in a blue moon, wasn't there? Like, he doesn't do that every time he plays for Wales, does he? I appreciate how hard he worked in South Africa, but I've never been convinced by him at national level. So I don't know if Henry Thomas is carrying a knock or not. Otherwise, I think it's a bit strange. To be honest, when I saw the squad, it was largely as I expected it to be. I was disappointed Elliott wasn't there. But again, I had a feeling that Dowie Lake would be on the bench because if we're being honest, Elliott is that third choice scrum half. We know his arrows are much, much better than Lake, but you could argue that Lake offers a bit more physicality around the park. That's the other talking point, I guess.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think, we're going to try and run them around the park for 60 minutes and then brutalise them for the last 20.
Yeah.
And Dewey is going to do that, where Elliott isn't. Elliott isn't that player. He's mobile, he's good at the set piece, but he isn't going to knock people out the rucks continually.
Yeah, and as we talked about with Basham earlier, I just think it's the line-out option. Chunzer is there for the line-out option, and Tane misses out. Like I said, I don't know if the yellow card had anything to do with it, but again, there were some suggestions about putting him at number 8. I don't know how you feel about that. I've never been quite convinced by Tane at number 8. I know what the argument is. He's not like a breakdown specialist in the same way as Morgan and Raffle, but I don't think he's physical or big enough for number 8.
He's not a heavy traffic carrier, is he? He's he's a decent carrier. He'll give you that option, but from 8, you need somebody who's a heavy traffic carrier, and that works in one of 2 ways. It's either the Faletau, the Vunipola kind of option, which is big, broad, bumping people off, or the kind of the Wainwright kind of approach, which is a bit more explosive and just quicker. And he doesn't do either of those things. He is quick, but he's quick in a different way to Wainwright. Like, I think it's less explosive. It's just when he's running, he is moving at pace, Basham. And I think Shunza is there for the physicality. We'll run him around and then we'll just knock him over. And
I have this debate with Harley on the Rat Pod. The jury's still out on Shunza for me.
He's had one good game for us, I think. He's the best player against Portugal. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, a really good game against Portugal. I'm not saying he's a poor player. I think he's a very exciting young talent, but I'm yet to see him impose himself on the game. I'm yet to see him really hit those rucks hard and carrying hard. And like I said, yeah, a really good game against Portugal, but I just feel like I need to see more from him. For such a big guy, I want to see him impose himself and put his print on the game. Do you know what I mean?
Totally agree. I totally agree. If you compare him in physicality to Jack Morgan, this is how tall is Shunza? 6'4", 6'5", 20
I'm
stone.
not sure off the top of my head. Yeah.
20 stone. But he doesn't hit rucks with that ferocity. He doesn't.
No.
I expect a player like that to be dominant. If you compare him to someone like Moriarty, who isn't as big, Moriarty knows exactly what he's about. He's a horrible, gnarly sword who's just hitting rucks and hitting people. In my head, that's what Shunza should be doing.
Yeah, I just want to see him put himself about a bit more, really impose his physicality and put himself about a bit. And I haven't really seen it as of yet. But like I say, I do like him. I think he's very talented player and he's only going to get better. He is raw at the moment, but I don't think we've really seen enough of him yet. We haven't seen the best of him, that's for sure.
Exeter fans will tell you that he's a great player, but it's Exeter fans also thought their branding was a good idea for many years. So
exactly, yeah. Fair enough. Argentina named their team today. Very disappointed. No Dragon scrum half Gonzalo Bertranu. He's not in the squad at all. And I'm very upset. He's not in the 23. Thomas Cabelli is named scrum half. Very, very disappointed by that because I thought he was having a decent World Cup, to be honest with him.
Absolutely.
So that's obviously, the first thought was, is he injured? Is he picked up or not? But apparently not. Michael Checker has just opted not to play him. They have got Santiago Carreras at 10, which I think is good news for Wales because I'm not convinced about him at 10.
He's not a 10,
no.
So.
No, Nicolas Sanchez should be starting 10. But when I look at the teams, I think Wales can win. And like I said, we will talk about predictions later, but the team we've picked, I think, should be good enough. I'm confident. I am optimistic. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm optimistic. I don't know. I'm just quietly confident that we can get this done. As a Wales fan, I can't be too confident. I'm never too confident at all, because it always backfires. Every time I'm thinking, yeah, Wales are definitely going to win, we either bolster up or we make it very hard for ourselves. But I'm quietly optimistic, I think.
But before the tournament, Jamie, would you have taken the quarter-final?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, as would have I. So if we lose now, I'll be disappointed. But I think we can beat them. I've seen nothing from Argentina that worries me. And when people say, oh, yeah, but did you see the try to score against Japan? Yes, I also saw Japan's defense. So, it's... so I wasn't just looking at the man running over the line. I was also looking at the men not being in the place they should have been in. And I don't think we'll be doing the same thing.
No, absolutely. It's going to be a brilliant weekend. I really cannot wait for this weekend. I was supposed to be going to a gig. I was supposed to be going to see Film for a Friend in Cardiff. I'm selling my ticket now because I can't miss Ireland, New Zealand. And I didn't know it clashed. There's no way I'm missing it. I can't. So I'm selling my ticket. If anyone wants to buy a seat on the balcony for Funeral for a Friend live in Cardiff, let me know. But,
and if anyone wants to referee under 10s rugby in Eastbourne as well, also let me know so I can see the Sunday games.
Right then, let's have some predictions then, Gav, for this weekend. Let's end on some predictions. So Saturday, 4 p.m, Wales versus Argentina. Your score prediction, please.
Wales by 8.
Wales by 8. Okay, I'm going to go Wales by 5 on that one. I think I said 5 on that. Yeah, I'm going to stick with Wales by 5. Then at 8 o'clock, later in the evening, Ireland, New Zealand. I think I know you're going to go Ireland, aren't you, from what you were saying earlier. But what's your score prediction for that one then?
Ireland by 11.
Ireland by 11. I just realised we did score predictions on that, but I can't remember what I said. So my score predictions now are going to be.
You were spot on with the Wales one. You said Wales by 24 or 25. So.
Yeah, I was thinking about this week though, because we asked, we was asked about predictions this weekend, and my score predictions are going to be very different though to the rap one. So I can't remember what I said. Anyway, I'm going to say Ireland by. I'm going to go 9. Ireland by 9. It wouldn't surprise me if New Zealand won, and I do think they are going under the radar somewhat, but it would not surprise me. And let's not forget, Ireland, they do have that history, that baggage of not winning a quarterfinal in the World Cup. Is that going to weigh heavy on their minds? It is a psychological game. Will it have any effect? It shouldn't do that. This should be the time now, shouldn't it?
It's a different team. It is not exciting. It's not sexy. It's a Volvo estate, but it's a very good Volvo estate.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Okay, so Sunday then, we got England versus Fiji at 4 o'clock. I think I said England by 10. Sadly, okay. I do. I mean, my heart says Fiji and my head says England. I would love to see Fiji pull off an upset, but I have to be honest. Since they beat Australia, I think Fiji have been declining. I think their performances have been rather poor since our excellent win against Australia. So, how do you see that one going then, Gav? England, Fiji.
England by 6.
A narrow win. England by 6.
Yeah,
okay.
it'll be awful game. Dreadful.
They probably will. You're right. And then Sunday, 8 p.m, France versus South Africa. How do you see that one going?
France by 2.
France by 2. I think this is the hardest game to call. Out of all these games this weekend, this is the most difficult one. I did say France. I can't remember what I said in the rap pod, but I'm just going to say France by 7.
Yeah,
I'll go France.
I think there's going to be entirely European semi-finals.
That'd be good, wouldn't it? That'd be really, really good. Yeah, with France, I just think, the home advantage, that's really going to help. I think they're going to have a massive lift with Dupont coming back. I don't think anyone surprised me if South Africa won it, if they turned up and just grinded France down. But I can't see this French team being grinded down.
Well, one of two things is going to happen. It's going to be an awful game, which South Africa will strangle the life out of the French. Or it'll be a great game where France will not allow themselves to be strangled and will just take risk after risk after risk, and South Africa won't be able to cope with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Right then, I think we'll call it a night. We've gone through a lot today, didn't we? Fair play. Very, very good. So, yeah, you can find us on Spotify and the Sports Social Network. Please subscribe, leave us a review, rate us. It really does help us. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter, so please follow us on there if you haven't done already. Gav, thank you very much for the fun-filled evening.
Thank you as always.
Not a problem. And we will speak next week. Take care, everybody.
See you all.
Thank you for listening to the Dragon's Lair podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please subscribe, rate and review wherever you listen to us, as it really helps spread the word. You can find us on all the usual social media channels or email us on welshregionalrugbypod@gmail.com. And remember, whatever the question is, rugby is always the answer.
Sports Social Podcast Network.